Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Wednesday in the Rev. So let's start off again with the crime. I know you got a lot to talk about, but I got this text in the other day. Um, it's, I guess, a place called Seasons. I really can't place it. I think I've seen it, but I don't know what part of the city it's
It's
in.
the old Shell station on Rhode Island Avenue, across from the CVS.
All right, yeah, because when I'm on Rhode Island Avenue, I'm too busy dodging ATVs and traffic. So I thought I saw that facade somewhere before. Um, there it is. It says Fall River armed robbery this morning. Fall River police investigating armed robbery at city store. That was sent to me Monday after our show. So again, the you know, Fall River continues to build its resume up for all the yuppies that are coming to come down from the Boston area. Come down and get robbed, get shot, duck bullets, have your house hit by bullets. But remember, if you live in the North End or near Paul, it doesn't count.
That's true. That's true. Because it's amazing how nothing affects Paul or his friends. So, speaking of Paul, I received a propaganda flyer. Paul on the front, Paul and his wife on the back. And here's the propaganda. Mayor Paul Coogan will continue to deliver results for our community. I don't know what results he's talking about, but he invested in new equipment and increased staffing for police, fire, and emergency medical services. Yet, he's still in arbitration. He supported economic, and that means they don't have a contract. Okay? So, and Chip can talk about the arbitration portion of it a little later. Supported economic development projects ranging from small business improvement grants to the revitalization of Fall River's waterfront. Fall River's waterfront is being revitalized because of the state, not because of Paul. And previous mayors have done this as well. Okay? But it's always the mayor that's in office that accepts credit for something they didn't do. This one I love. Utilized ARPA stimulus funds to stabilize city finances and save taxpayer money. This is questionable. And the reason why I say it's questionable is, if I remember correctly, ARPA money was not supposed to be used for things like retirement, taxes, tax reduction, or budget stabilization. But this is what the mayor is using it for. Now, I do know that they could use it for lost revenue, which I think the city inflated, but that's another story. Okay? Combined public and private investments to increase Fall River housing stock. Now, here's the big lie. From affordable housing for veterans to large mill renovations, which is true. They're having several large mill renovations. Remember, this is the mayor who does not want affordable housing. This is the mayor who does not support affordable housing. As a matter of fact, he says we have enough affordable housing because he confuses and he can't get it in his head that public housing is not affordable housing. There's a difference. And until he can get that through his thick skull, it's not going to make any sense. And finally, completed and planned citywide infrastructure improvements to parks, streets, and sidewalks. That happens every year, people. No matter who the mayor is, that happens because it comes out of CDA money. In this case, it may be coming out of ARPA money as well. But this is definitely a propaganda card. And as I said, on the front of the card, it has Paul and his infinite wisdom. On the back of the card, it is Paul and his wife. So, nothing like using your props. So, what do you think, Chip?
Well, as you said, a real good propaganda piece, complete with pictures. You notice you've got smiling Paul on the front. Not
Yes.
go jump in the Taunton River if you disagree with me, or you don't have a right to speak if you live in public housing, or you don't own a house, or you're not a doctor, a lawyer, an Indian chief, or a rich banker. Not the Paul who is very, very abrupt and short with people who and tells them, "Oh, don't try to say this. Yeah, you have a bullet in your house. There's no bullets flying around." So number one, the pictures they speak 1,000 words. It shows the fact that his duplicity. And so let's begin with the how. Well, I mean, he talked about the arbitration. Yeah, the firefighters are still in arbitration. They don't have a contract. But you know something? He's not doing anything. We're still nowhere near full complement at either department. There's been no plan to fix all the problems in the police department or bring up the fire department. He spent a lot of money on EMS and he put out a lot of high-paying jobs to his friends. So that again, you got to take with a grain of salt because he's looking for a pat on the back, but you're not going to get one. And then of course, when he talks about housing for veterans, what did he build? 2 units? How many units did he build for veterans? Maybe a lot of people forgot, Paul, but I haven't forgotten the fact that Watuppa Heights, after it was demolished, there was an agreement when they made that demolition, because there was a lot of issues when they demolished that. We had a lot of people demonstrating against demolishing that project because we have a lot of people that need affordable housing. And the only person that doesn't seem to understand that is Paul Coogan. But you remember when they went to the council and they tried to change it and not live up to the agreement? They said, no, we got enough of that. We don't have to use it. We're going to do this. And then they made all kinds of excuses and it disappeared off in the sunset. So that's a crock. How many units have you really made, Paul? 1 unit here, 2 units here, 3 units there. Somerset built 67 or 68 units. They got a population of 18,000. Our population's around 95,000. And we haven't built as many in his entire administration. So is that adequately addressing the housing issues in Fall River? And by the way, John Mitchell, a real mayor in New Bedford, not to be confused with the John Mitchell in Fall River, they're different people, has just taken $27, I believe, million. I don't have the paper in front of you, CJ. You can correct me if my number is off by a $27 million and put it into building 27 or 28 affordable housing units in the city of New Bedford on top of the other measures he's done in the affordable housing he's already built. So listen, this entire thing, if BS was bricks, you could use that to build a chimney to the moon and still have some of those cards left over. This is pure manipulation of fact, half-truths, and flat-out lies. That's what it is. The only thing missing there is the dog. Paul, you got to get a dog. Because, politicians that really want to, tug at the heartstrings, they got the family, the dogs, the kids, the flag in the background in front of the Braga Bridge and, Gramada Plaza or something. Get a little bit more creative, will you? I mean, this was so blatantly full of crap. I mean, but I guess when you got nothing, this is the best you can do.
It's kind of tough, isn't it, when you don't have anything? Very tough. Makes it tough to do anything that you want to do when you have nothing and when you're trying to sell yourself to the people. And, most polls have shown that people do not like Paul. I wonder why. I wonder why. He doesn't make a good appearance to people, okay, unless it's the cameras are around. If the cameras are around, he's there. And then even when the cameras are interviewing him, he's befuddled. He's like Joe Biden almost. I mean, Joe Biden went so far in Maui to repeat an entire portion of his speech as I was watching it on NBC. But Paul really doesn't have a plan that he can give to the people. And that's the problem. We've asked for it. And remember, Ken Fiola said, according to Chris Peckham, who used to be on the ARPA committee, said, we will spend the money however we want and let the federal governments come after us afterwards. What an opinion. What an opinion. I guess, Paul, I thought you were into corruption. Seems like you might be. And maybe the feds should come down and order all your opera spending. I wonder if they're going to slap you on the wrist for it. Okay? Because I'm going to tell you now, make sure that you're able to spend those opera dollars the way you are and have. Because if not, the Office of Inspector General is going to be looking at it. Because I am filing a complaint today for them to look into the spending of the city of Fall River at the federal level. And I'm going to file one with the state level as well, because I still believe that school building transaction is collusion, conspiracy, and illegal. But that's just my opinion. I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah, but Kenny Fiola is, and isn't that a violation of the canon of ethics of the legal profession to actually say that you're going to violate federal rules and regulations and just misappropriate money? If he was a public official, which he always reminds us he's not, because we can't look at his tax returns. But isn't that a violation? You could charge a public official with malfeasance because it's their sworn duty to be a fiduciary. But he says, well, we're just going to spend it any way we want. We're not going to worry about whether it's legal or not. Let them come and get it. But he knows they're not going to come and get it. This is a blue state. You know that the DOJ only goes after people in red states and people who lean to the right. You can commit felonies, defraud the IRS. I mean, God, let's face it, they couldn't get Capone. He murdered half of Chicago. They couldn't put him in jail. What did they put him in for? Tax evasion. The IRS is the most feared entity in the world because they just throw you in jail, attach your pay, but not for Hunter Biden. They had him dead to rights. They had the two whistleblowers dead to rights. What did they do? They let the statutes of limitations run out. Doesn't mean he wasn't guilty of it. It means he's connected enough to get away with it because we have two standards of justice. But Kenny Fiola said, screw it, come after me. He knows the Fed's not going to come down and investigate unless somebody files a complaint. And then you got to drag it out in court. But I mean, I thought he was an attorney. Attorneys are supposed to abide by the law. They're supposed to uphold the law. They have a canon of ethics. But no, he said it. He said those words. Just like Paul Coogan said the words, high rents will be good in the long run for Fall River. Good for who? Good for who, Paul? Good for the people whose median income is $28,000? Rents of $1,500 to $2,000 and are going to continue to escalate. That's good. Good for families who have a median income of $48,000. $2,000 a month. And remember, that income is not net income, it's gross income. So $48,000 for a family, you're going to pay $2,000 for an apartment. That's $24,000 last time I checked. So that's half. 50% of your income for the apartment. And I don't think those apartments come with heat and electricity. You're probably picking up that bill. And you got to feed yourself and your family. And I saw two different statistics. They said that the average, because of inflation, I saw one figure that was in this $709 a month. You're spending more, everybody. That's what we're spending due to inflation, 700. And I saw another figure, probably for California or something like that, but they didn't stipulate, but it was over 800. So between $700 and $800 additionally stressed on your income. So you look at that, that's per month, by the way. So just think about that. Just think about that added. But we don't have any need for it, Paul, because we got 95,000 people. I guess we got 94,000 people that are your friends and all got money, so they can afford the rents. But that's not true, is it, Paul? Because you show how much you care about the people of Fall River, because your plan is to kick everybody out that can't afford it. Just like your pal said when they went in front of the council. You don't like it? Move to Russia. You don't like it? Move out. You took the tents away. But now it's an election year. You're trying to play. Oh, yeah, I'm really concerned. Your plan is to move everybody out of Fall River. That's the average people. And I hate to tell you this, but about 75% of the people in Fall River are living paycheck to paycheck. The national average is 61%. 61% of the people in the United States, and these are people who have a far higher income than Fall River people. Because we're less than half of the per capita and household income. So 61% of the people are living paycheck to paycheck. So that means about 75% minimum in Fall River are living paycheck to paycheck. So you really believe when you're getting a paycheck and your rent went up $500 a month, you can afford it? But no problem. We've done enough. We've done enough. Let those other people be gone. So, you can smile in your picture, but we all know how insensitive you are to the everyday people of Fall River.
Let them eat cake. Let them eat cake. Because that's the way it looks. I mean, so it makes it for a very interesting time. Today, the biggest ripoff in Fall River is happening starting today down at Kennedy Park, the Great Feast of the Holy Ghost, which takes about $60,000 or $75,000 out of city tax dollars to pay for overtime for police. And for years, they used to have a specific line item just for this that said, Great Feast, $60,000 overtime. Now it says special events. So they've combined them all because there was too much heat coming on them for doing the Great Feast, which is supposed to be a religious event, which means it's a separation of church and state. But under the Flanagan administration, under the Carrera administration, when we had lawyers contact the city about it, they turned around and said, oh no, it's a cultural event. They raised maybe $2,000 to $4,000 a year for scholarships. After that, the money goes on booze, parties, and banquets. That's where the money goes every year. And if you look at their tax returns, which we've done several times in the past, as you remember, you see that they've raised over $200,000. It's not cheap money, $200,000. But that's what they've raised. That's what they got left over after all their parties and everything else. Or maybe that's everything they had altogether. I'm not sure. Because again, I don't know how they're filing their taxes. But I have seen them. And I still believe that they're robbing the taxpayers of the city of Fall River. And the people of Fall River are so desperate for something to do that they won't make a ruckus about it. But let me tell you something. Michelle Dion has asked questions about it. And again, to no avail. We're seeing comments now posted on Facebook that all this is an overpriced flea market, which I agreed with. It is an overpriced flea market. Okay, when they're charging $3 and $4 for a Muller Savage and $6, $7, $8 for a Caserla, who are they trying to kid? I mean, it's just not funny anymore. And the people of Fall River need to realize that this is your city. Okay, and for downtown, from St. Anne's Hospital all the way down to Government Center, the traffic is blocked. It is impossible to transverse that area equally. And the fire department and the police department and the EMS have to be given alternate routes around this feast, which delays the time they can get to their event sites. So it makes for an interesting time. I'm not sure how difficult it was for the fire department to make these changes, Chip, but I'm sure you do.
Yeah, it's extremely difficult. Traffic patterns and blocking streets off. So it delays response, which is a danger. Always has, always will. But to get back to the cultural aspect, it's not a cult. Look, it's called the Holy Ghost Feast. That is a religious. That's a religious. Well, at least it's predicated on a religious note, but it's become a commercial endeavor, and we know it. And we should not be paying for it because last time I checked, there was no uh, there's no Buddha feast, no Hare Krishna feast. Uh, so if religious entities, well, they'll say cultural because at one time Fall River's majority population was Portuguese, but that's not so anymore. So that's not even anything. The reality is, look, it's a gravy train for the people who are connected. And we all know it always has been. We provide them with a lot of services that they should be paying for and always have. And everybody, they're just told, shut your mouth. And like you said, they're desperate. But let me circle back to something that on that card that Coogan sent, because I was thinking about that because I don't have it in front of me. He didn't mail me one yet. Maybe he's going to save the postage. I don't know. But I feel slighted. But roads, fixing the roads. You know how many calls I get from people saying, I've never seen anything like it. Virtually every road in the city is a disaster. It's either being worked on. It's like the big dig is going on here. Every time you go up a street, you turn down, you go to the next day, it's being worked on. You just went down that street. And all the streets are all patched. I go down streets that have been paved fairly recently, and you can see all the patches on the street. They just let them dig it up. Just dig it up. Nobody cares. I mean, I've gotten numerous people telling me it's nuts no matter where you go, South End, East End, North End, where you go. Even in the North End now, they got a few. But I mean, the roads, it's nuts. But as you said, road work is something that goes on continuously. And the reality is there should be some rhyme and reason to the road work. Many, many years ago, when Paul was busy wandering around the halls of Durfee with his hands in his pockets, the city council, when Bob Connors was a city administrator, actually said they were going to make a plan to put away earmark money and to do the streets in a logical order, and to also require these companies to do any service they needed. Obviously, if there's an emergency, there's an emergency. They actually came up with something that seems to be totally foreign to Paul Coogan's ability to think cognitively, a plan. They came up with the plan. Of course, they never implemented it, but it was good on paper. So when you talk about the roads, it's just another example of half-truths, promises. Yeah, you got backhoes digging up stuff. So what's that? What does that do for the person that can't pay his rent? What does that do with the person who's ducking bullets? What does that do for the employees in that store that were victimized by an armed robber? I don't know. Maybe you can enlighten me, Paul, but I don't think you can, because what you do is do exactly what you did for your entire career as an educator. Walk around with your hands in your pockets and just let everything go over your head and collect your paycheck, which is exactly what you're doing now.
Which is sad. I mean, we need leadership, okay? And, as much as I don't like touting candidates, except for Michelle Dion, obviously, Sam Sutter says that he's the mayor for everyone. He's going to be the mayor for everyone. Well, tell us how, Sam. That's the big question. Tell us how. The people want to know. Somebody we know very well, Josh, made a comment that people are going to the ballot box and they're holding their nose, deciding how to pick a mayoral candidate, how to vote for a mayoral candidate. And I've heard that a lot too, that any choice is a bad choice. So what do? The devil you know or the devil you don't know? You got to make a choice. And it's difficult for the people to make that decision without having any information. And so they got to go blindly. And if they go blindly, I don't see that benefiting Sam Sutter at all.
Well, look, this has been a very quiet election. These city councilors that are not incumbent should be making a lot of noise. I don't know what they're waiting for. Maybe they're just waiting for the primary because they figure there's only going to be one person knocked out, so then they can get into it. But you like you say, you need it. But listen, it's not the devil you know, especially when that devil is really bad. This guy is total incompetent. He's done to the city of Fall River what Joe Biden's done to the United States. He's destroyed the economy, destroyed everything. He doesn't care. And he's living in another world. He's worried about his 67 Corvette and his cat when he's talking to people who've lost people. And there's still over 800 people missing. I mean, he's clueless. So, but this is what we got. So the way I look at it, people tell me, both candidates suck. I'm not going to vote. Well, it's your prerogative, obviously, but it's not the way I feel. And sometimes I do go to the polls with not only holding it, but maybe a mask on. But I always vote for what I feel is the lesser of two evils. The incumbency only has any weight in me judging how good or bad this guy has performed. All I look at is, listen, Sutter has shown leadership ability. He made decisions. Maybe not everybody liked them. But when I was on the fire department, I always instructed all my officers that when you get to an emergency and a fire or any emergency, hazmats or anything, you had better make an error of commission, not omission. And that's what Coogan is a master at, an error of omission, doing nothing. We were in emergency service. I said, you may not have laid that line in exactly the right place, and we can deal with that the next time we discuss tactics. But you better do something because lives are on a line. You got to make an error of commission. You got to try. You got to try to do something. You just can't stand there with your finger up your derriere and wait for the chief to show up. Well, you're the chief, Paul. And I have not seen you make an error of commission in your entire tenure as mayor. In 2 terms, I have not seen you be proactive about any problem the city has had. I have never seen you come out there and lead the problem, lead in fixing the problems in the police department, lead the problems in fixing the city of Fall River, lead in fixing the affordable housing crisis. I have not seen you ever make an error of commission, because that's not your style. Your style is hands in a pocket, collect your paycheck, and just let it go, because everybody will forget. And that's about what I got to say on that issue. So I will vote, and I will not be voting for our incumbent, because he has done zero in my opinion.
And I have already voted, and not one incumbent except for Michelle Dion got a vote from me. So that tells you right there how I feel. I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Friday.